for again with us.
Yes, sir.
I was thinking of you yesterday. I was wondering where you had disappeared, and there you are, mashallah. Please, shall we begin?
Yes. So today we have a panel of 4 questioners. First one is Muzaffar Clark from England, then Mr. Musa Shaibu from Nigeria, and number 3rd is Mr. Demba from Ivory Coast, and number 4 is Mrs. Eva Baran from Poland.
Right.
Please.
Hazur, do you think that parents are wrong when they criticise their children too much for their bad behaviour, and that they pay less attention to when their children are good and performing properly and nicely? Do you think too much emphasis is placed on bad behaviour?
The way you have framed your question, there's no need of any answer. They have to be wrong, of course. Absolutely.
Yes.
Next.
Thank you.
We'll come back to you then.
Certainly.
Huzur, the question I'm going to ask is like a problem which occasionally I come across talking to Christians.
Right.
It's like they are not very interested in when you tell them about the survival of Jesus on the cross. And
So why do you discuss this problem with them then?
that's what I'm saying, that they are not, they are only interested in the Christmas gifts and Easter eggs and so on. And to them, that's what Christianity is all about. Which is the best way to preach to Christians who are really not interested in their own religion?
What is the message which you receive from this behavior?
The
evident message is that they are not interested in God or godly things. They are only interested in this world here, the material world, and in religion only when it applies to their worldly pleasures. So their interest is neither in Christ, nor in Christianity, nor in God. They're just the people of the materialist world. So you have to go to the crux of the problem. Discuss with them the concept of God, if they have any. The reality of His existence, if they believe in it or not. So these are the basic issues which have to be tackled by you before they can be made interested in religion. Don't discuss just Christianity and what it stands for in dogmas, but just measure them first, what they are, where they belong, and then speak a language which is understandable by them, which applies to their situation. So tabligh or the preaching is not an easy task. You have to take the full measure of the whole situation and the new terrain in which you are going to travel. Right?
Yes, sir.
Please.
Assalamu alaikum. My question is that when there is a war between two countries, what is the solution Islam discussed to bring peace among those two countries?
The Holy Quran is very clear on this subject, which also implies that according to the Holy Quran, there is no one single entity as a Muslim state. The Muslims are divided into many states, each holding its own stately powers. So the Quran says when two of your communities, the Muslims, fight with each other on certain points of differences, then you make a sort of United Nations. The word United Nations is not made, but this is the idea implied. All of you together, put your heads and your powers together and try to convince them to the importance or the advantage of peace. Tell them all differences must be resolved peacefully with negotiation on the principle of justice. When you do that, if they listen to you, then bring them together. If one of the two parties or both insist on their belligerent behavior, then you must join together to overpower them. That is where the fight will not just be between the two of them, it will be between the rest of the Muslim nations and the two warring factions, and force them to a peace, a state of peace. Then begin to decide who was wrong in what and who was wrong in what other things. And when you settle the issues between them, remember that it should be done with absolute justice. This is the whole Quranic attitude, not exactly in the same words, but exactly to the same import and intent which I have just spoken to you. Does it cover everything which you had in mind or no?
And because
what else if you had in mind?
Yeah,
because I still see a question mark lingering on your face. Huh?
Yeah, because what you said is clear, but why there is when the United Nations, try to bring peace, and the peace.
See, the United Nations is not working in accordance with the principles enunciated here by the Holy Quran. They are not working for absolute justice. They are not working for bringing about a compromise on the principle of absolute justice. They are not just another party interested in two different parties. They become interested themselves to get the best out of the situation for their own nations. So whichever is the most powerful in the United Nations, that party would try to make most of this situation between two different warring countries. They would secretly sell arms to this and that. They will do everything to draw money out of this situation. Is that not right?
Yes.
So this is not what the Quran says. The Quranic attitude is completely different. The people have to spend the money from their own, on their own. The Muslim states were outside the two warring states, and they have to bring about a settlement, peaceful settlement, and withdraw. That's all. Please, Eva. Yes.
Did God create you evil?
Beg pardon?
Did God create you evil? If so, then why?
Did God create evil? If so, then why?
God did not create evil at all. Evil did not need to be created. The lack of goodness is evil. Whoever put these lights on, did he create shadows and shades as well?
Yeah, okay.
He had only to create light, and whatever was away from light, that was a shadow. That was in a shadow. So you do not have to create both the poles of existence. Create just one, which is the positive pole. The opposite would immediately come into being by itself. So God created goodness,
Right.
and the lack of goodness became evil.
How this can
But
happen? How this can happen?
this is what I'm telling you with reference to light. If you, suppose you have created sun, it's not you who has created the night. You only created the day.
Yeah.
So anything in existence which turns its face away from the sun would be responsible for that night. Because night has not to be created independently, it cannot be created. It's impossible. You have only to create light, and the darkness will be its opposite number, will
Yeah.
which will automatically be born.
Yes.
Right?
Can I? Yes. Can
Yes.
I, for this question,
In a different
give
way.
another?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Because first bad things happen from Adam. Yes. From Adam, when Adam came. But now, from where come to Iblis?
Yes.
Iblis, you know.
No problem.
How Iblis have bad things in his
That's
head
right.
before Adam came.
You see,
How this happen?
this can only happen in a world of choices, not otherwise. If there is just light and no shadows, this is not what we call a world of choices. When God created angels who would obey God and who do not know what obedience is, then it's a sort of light which knows no shadows. But when you give an angel, for instance, a choice to hide his face or to turn his face against the light, from then on the evil would be born. So it is the choice you're talking about, not the creation of evil.
Okay.
When God gave choice to mankind to either be good or be bad,
Yeah.
then Satan was created out of this choice.
Yeah. But did God give to Iblis choice?
Iblis,
Iblis. Yeah.
let us call him a man
Yeah.
for a while,
Okay.
then you will understand. If God had not given man a choice
Yeah.
of either following him or not following him, then there was no need for creating man, because angels exactly did the same thing. If God did not give choice to man to either follow him or not to follow him, then there was no need for creating man at all, because angels were not given the choice of not to follow God. So it would be the creation of angels yet again in a different form. But the moment God created man with this option, with this freedom to follow or not to follow, then some humans were free to do whatever they like.
Yeah.
And it were those who were Iblis who decided not to follow the word of God, because that looked attractive. For instance, if you ask somebody to climb a mountain, the moving towards God is like climbing a mountain. When you have choices, when you have no choices, then it doesn't make any difference. But when you have choices to sit down in peace and ease and comfort and not to make the effort of climbing, then when you stay below and do not rise, that in itself is the creation of Iblis, which brings harm not only to himself, but all such people whom they say, no, no, don't go up. There's no need to, just rest in peace here. So you lose the opportunity of gaining heights. The gaining height here means closeness to God. So a hell is created which is a distance between God and your own choices. So that is in reality what hell is.
Yeah.
The consequence of this sin which I am describing. Got it?
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Now all this is covered in full detail in my book, which as I have mentioned repeatedly now, which I hope will be ready by this annual conference. It's ready otherwise, but it takes some time for the press to tidy up last things and the requirements of the printing and what has to be gone into and so on and so forth. This gentleman is a man of press, man from press, eh?
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So how long will it take? Suppose I hand over the book in its final form
Yes, sir.
to your press by 1 month, within 1 month, which will be June.
Yes, put 10th of June.
Say 10th of June. From 10th of June
Yes, sir.
till 20th of July,
Yes, sir.
will you be able to publish this book?
That depends on the numbers of pages.
Around 450, 60, 80 maybe.
If it's going to be published in our press, which is in Islamabad,
Yes.
then it will be of a little difficulty, give us a little problem. But if it's going out into things like web machine, which will be outside Islamabad, then it should be no problem.
So the problem is to publish it in time.
In time.
So wherever you have to go for that, to achieve that object, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, for web
But
machine.
in a manner
Yes, sir.
where you do not commit yourself entirely to the outside services,
Yeah,
so that after publishing a part thereof
yeah.
of that book,
Yes, sir.
for the future publication you return to your own press.
Yeah, it's possible because for web machine, the more the quantity, the cheaper it becomes. But for smaller prices,
Is it very expensive, this mob machine, what the machine you're talking about?
oh yes, we will not be able
10
to.
million?
We won't have enough job to keep it going.
Oh, right. That's right, yes.
So,
So it's better to go out to
yeah.
such companies as own this.
yes, sir. Because
okay, inshallah. So there you will have a fuller answer to these questions which you have raised, because they are the questions, they are the same questions as have been discussed throughout the ages by the religious people as well as the secular philosophers. Goodness and evil. Why are they here? Why are they created? If created at all, all that thing. So I have, for once at least, decided to do away with this question once and for all. And I hope, inshallah, I would have succeeded in this.
What is,
I
the,
may have succeeded. Huh?
what is the name of your book as well?
The name is Rationality and Revelation. The role they play in leading to truth, knowledge and truth. So it's a longish title, but we have done it in two ways. In a way where it is the length is sort of petered out. The title would be Revelation, it's Rationality and Revelation. And in small print, leading to.
It gets smaller.
No, but in the end you make it
The
again.
end point,
Point,
yeah.
that's right. So this covers everything about religion, revelation, the Quran, the Quranic prophecies. Why should we believe in divine scriptures, if at all? Is there a God or not? Because you have to take up the issue of God, otherwise there is no revelation. So what is inspiration? What is the difference between inspiration and revelation? What is the proof that revelation does exist? What is the difference between inspiration and hallucination? And all these very interesting issues are taken up there. Right?
Thank you.
Please.
It's your turn.
Oh,
Yes, your question.
We've come back, have we? So a recent survey said that 1 in 3 adults in the United Kingdom, this is another question about children, believe that parents should be fined in the courts for their children's bad behaviour and crimes. How far can parents be held responsible for the actions of their children?
This is an issue which has gone all wrong in the British society. So, like some threads which get involved with each other and make knots here and there, they have to be unknotted first and then reorganized. So this is what I have been trying to convince the British diplomats when they come to see me, that you are not attending your problems in the right way. Everything about your attendance of the problem is wrong. Basically, the concept of children and what should be taught to them and how it should be taught to them has to be taken up anew. Then the question of punishment must also be studied in depth along with what the children are to be taught. By whom and to what extent is another question. The state stands for secular education. The parents have a right to teach religion. And when they teach religion, the question of answerability also creeps into their teaching. And to what extent they are answerable to God. And from what age they would become answerable to God. And before that, are they answerable to none or to a degree to their parents? And to whatever authority you are answerable, that authority must also possess a power to punish. Because the concept of answerability goes hand in hand with the concept of forgiveness or punishment. So here, these two issues have to be taken up. How far the parents have the right to teach their children religion, their religion, and how far they can go in making them practice that religion as best as it can be practiced during that early age. If they fail to do it, how far the parents can go in deciding the issue of some punishment, and what is the extent of that punishment which the society would accept as a whole. Now, we cannot take up the issue of punishment religion after religion separately, because in different religions the concept may vary. In a society you're talking about, where the entire people must also have some factor to play, some role to play. They can't leave the question of answerability entirely to the concept of somebody's own religious distortions, for instance. A mullah, an orthodox Muslim, would take up in his hand the issue of punishing some children even to death. So how can you give a free hand to every religious person to punish as best as he would like or as worse as he would like? So this again is a question which has to be decided by the society in consultation with different religions. Then the parents have their own limitations. They cannot go beyond. And the children also have to submit to occasional punishment by their parents. Then also there will be the question of how best the children should be brought up. The English phrase, spare the rod and spoil the child, is not correct. It only applies to a few situations, not all of them. The best policy, according to me, is spare the rod, not to spoil the child. If you can serve this motto, this is the best upbringing that you can think of. If you spare the rod for the sake of bringing up your children in the ideal way, there is no better way which you can conceive. If you spare the rod despite the fact that they earn the rod, they warrant the use of rod, then it is destroying your own children by sparing the rod. So these are very delicate issues, and they have to be gone into depth and discussed in detail by forums of the intellectuals, where different religious people should also be represented. But it's a matter which has to be brought to the notice of the entire people as such. The problems, for instance, with regards to the maturity of children and their age prior to the maturity, the problems are manifold. And it is here again where all the Western societies tackle the issue absolutely wrongly. What they do here is they tell the children, as long as they have not reached the age of maturity, their parents can do whatever they like in teaching them religion and this and that. But the moment they come of age, they have nothing to, they owe nothing to their parents and the religious society. Then it is all hocus pocus left behind. Then you reach the age of maturity where you're answerable and responsible only to the man-made laws, not to God-made laws. So it's another way of ridiculing with the laws of God and telling you are only responsible to God while you are not mature, while you are sort of stupid, you know. Because God is a thing of stupidity according to all this. The moment you become wise and able to decide on your own issues, from that moment onward, you're answerable only to the law of the land. So this creates the problems for the law of the land itself. This is what they do not see. Because religion teaches morality and discipline without the rod. This is the ultimate of religion in this world. With the concept that you may be punished after death, you must improve the quality of your life here on earth. This is the fundamental of religious moral teachings. If you do not observe those teachings, you will not be punished here, but you still remain answerable to God in the hereafter. Now, when children are brought up with this sense of responsibility, that they must behave correctly, not because the society may catch them and punish them, but behave correctly because they are doing it for the sake of God, and He knows what they are doing. So when such children grow to adulthood and are carried into the society, it is the same attitude of moral discipline which guides their steps, which is what the society needs. Remove this, and what you are left with? You are left with the message, because there is no God, there is no morality, all that hocus pocus, different religions teach you different things. Forget about them. Now you have come to the age of majority, so you can live a life of sin as far as the religious concept of morality is concerned. Do whatever you like. Live with other girls, run away with them, let the girls go to their own rooms, hire rooms, and the society will help them doing this. And for what? To what extent? For what purpose? All such children who run away from their homes and want to spend a life separately do it with an ulterior motive of enjoying life here on earth as best as they can. And when they do it, the crime is automatically born. Not only sin, but also crime. So the drug addiction, drinking, going for the cheap pleasures of life, whether you can pay for them or not. The mugging and everything is born out of this situation of freedom. And these people do not realize that what they are bargaining for is trouble. That's just one thing. Another thing which also is related to this is the concept of answerability with punishment. They tell the children that as long as you have not grown to the full age of, say, 18 or 20, 21, whatever the age is, you may commit crime at every level. You can murder. You can rape, you can do this and that, but you will not be punished fully. Remember this. But when you become 21, then the punishment will begin. This means that by the time they reach 21, they have already turned into hardened criminals. It means that mafia are created which will use children who grow up to the age where they can commit robbery, rape, murder, everything, yet the law considers them to be children. Law will not be able to punish them. But when the punishment begins, the capability of change stops. Because the children from the age of 14, and sometimes they are mature also at the age of 14. Girls they can bear children. So, between the age of 14 and 21, there are 7 years. They can indulge in drug trafficking, they can drink, they can violate all principles of morality at every level, and they can murder. How can you expect them to reform suddenly out of the fear of punishment after they have reached the age of 21? You are pushing along. First of all, you are creating a sort of, a space where the evils are regimented, and the future generations of your society are trained to become as evil as they possibly can be. They will escape the natural consequences. Once they have reached that age, it is impossible for the society to handle them. This is exactly what is happening to the British society.
And it's why they've given up to some extent by saying somebody must be punished, so we'll punish the parents.
No, this is wrong. This is what I'm saying.
This is their conclusion they've come to.
Why should the parents be punished without rhyme or reason? They have bound the hands of the parents in so many different ways. They promote crime. They encourage it as a society. They should be punished. The lawmakers, the legislators, they should be punished first. And those counselors, in the name of social what are they called? Social workers. They destroy peace of every home here in England now. In the name of your rights, you are a child, you have a right to do whatever you like. Shocking people. And among them have infiltrated the Christian elements who try their best to draw them to Christianity in the name that in Christianity you have every freedom. Only change your views and doctrines, that's enough. That's all you need. So it's a lot of fraud is being committed upon our younger generations by the entire society, in which legislators do play a part, and they cannot be absolved of this responsibility. Right?
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
Huzur, will you please give us some guidance from the Holy Quran and the Hadith about mankind's responsibility for the care of the world's environment and natural resources?
It's a very big question which relates to the environment, because the answer is not exactly as you think it is, it should be. The answer to this question lies in the human social pattern of Muslims' life here on earth. The Holy Quran creates a society, attempts to create a society which needs very little for survival, and whose players are directed in a way to the family and the bondage between humans and humans of a different type, whereby they do not have to live an artificial life which is essentially responsible for pollution and other things which you're talking about. A society which is clean of smoking, which is clean of drugs, which is clean of alcohol. Imagine that sort of society. How little would such industries would be required that pollute the air? But that is not just one thing. You see, there's so many different things which come into play because the industry, the trade, relationship between the free world, the rich world and the poor world, they all go into the answer of this question, go towards making the answer of this question. So I have spoken on these things in detail. Apparently, to begin with, I speak of unrelated things. But when in the end up I tie up the ropes or the threads, then one can see very clearly that these were all the issues which related to the purity of atmosphere and a fight, a struggle for a clean life. Now, when you go, let me see, when you study the life pattern of the advanced nations, you will notice here that most of their efforts are spent on keeping up a standard of life which is mostly related to evil and pursuit of cheap and evil pleasures. Very little is spent on building the basis of life for everybody. So when I speak of industry being responsible to a degree for pollution, I do not mean that the industry should be destroyed as such. What I mean to say is that the direction of the industrial product should be changed to the creation of happy homes at common level. And such things as would make the homes of everybody happy and enjoyable without any luxury. Luxury may come later, but the basics should be attended first. And when you turn the attention from luxury to the basics, it does not mean that your industry is left idle. It has to be reconstructed and remodulated to perform different purposes. So this is a very complicated question which takes up the economic issues, etc., industrial progress and the purpose of life here on earth, the standards of living and so on and so forth. So Islam will not give you a single answer in relation to pollution as such. It's sheer absurdity. Nothing can be gained if you keep concentrated on pollution alone. I remember once a German specialist on pollution came to meet me and inquired me exactly what you have inquired, Islam's approach and attitude, so that he could gain something. When I finished the discussion, I was amazed to see this gentleman completely changed. He said, "You are absolutely right. The things which can really influence the issue of pollution do not lie in our hands. They lie in the hands of the entire nation. They have to make the policies and reframe the policies altogether in a manner that they do not only keep their own air clean, but also keep the air of other people clean." On this issue, I inform them, for instance, that when you take up the issue of pollution state by state, then you forget that you are creating problems for other nations as well. Or instead, for instance, the Americans have raised the level of their chimneys so high that the air currents carry the polluted material, the waste product, across and drop it to the African continent. So they are benefiting from their industry, and Africa is paying for it. This is a hard fact. It's not my imagination. This is exactly what it is. Here in England, they are enjoying a measure of industrial development, and their waste product is mostly dumped on Norway. And this is why the Norwegian people treated your queen, the English queen, with bad eggs, throwing the bad eggs upon her. Why were they so angry? This is a hard fact. So in relation to each other, when it comes to the issue of cleaning your own atmosphere and your own air, you do not care for your next door neighbors. And when it comes to the third world, you just do not care at all. Atomic wastes are dumped in close to Nigeria, in Benin.
There was once when some big industrial waste was
Right.
taken to Nigeria,
Yes.
and they had to return it.
I know,
That was-
later on, because of the noise everybody made.
And
And I was also responsible for making that noise.
God knows how many is gone through before.
And God knows what's happening now. Because everybody is corrupt. So altogether it's moral corruption which is responsible for pollution. When nations are corrupt morally, they do not care what may happen to the next door nation or the nations across, as long as they gain their advantages, their purpose for their own people. So insensibility to other people's suffering and other people's problems, etc., they're all factors which go together towards resolving the issue of pollution. Try to resolve it, otherwise it's not possible. Now, about the waste of the engines, for instance, motor cars running here and what is exhausted, how much waste product is injected into the air? Now, what is the answer? Every year the number of cars per person are increasing. The traffic problems along with the problems of the waste product, they just cannot be handled by improving the quality of oil or a few things here and there. The waste is still waste. You just cannot avoid it altogether. The air you breathe in London is very much polluted. The water you drink in London is extremely polluted because again of the same industrial waste product being dumped into Thames and other catchment areas. So it's a multiple problem, you don't know what you have asked. It's a multiple human problem. It may not be connected directly, but it is connected with so many other issues of changing the way of life. For instance, if I were to decide here, I would turn the British people into a cyclist nation. For that, we have to remap the roads somewhat on the pattern of Holland. And within an area of 30 miles at least, you can travel by bicycle to your office without losing time, because the time wasted on the cars is far too much greater than the time on bicycling. But when you end up your journey on a car on these busy days during rush hours, you end up totally exhausted.
And the average speed of traffic in London is 10 miles an hour.
Yes. And on bicycle, you can maintain the speed of 12 miles per hour so easily, just lightly. Those who go fast, they can maintain a speed of 15 miles per hour. But 12 miles an hour is just excellent, healthy speed. So when you end up your journey on a bicycle, you don't have the problem of parking the bicycle anywhere. You can even carry it up to your office. And there, you end up as a much better, healthier man. Your blood circulation going round and your fat content all dissolved in the process of your bicycling, and start the day happily and end the day happily, provided there are specific small tracks for the bicyclists with no hazards from the traffic. And the hazards from the traffic would reduce automatically, because all these people who are bicycling along, they might have used the cars. So the faster the speeds become because of bicycling, speeds of the cars I mean, the less wastage, the less fuel wastage, and the stink which you have from the cars when they are going slow.
Less noise.
Yes, less noise, much less noise.
If you say it's not true that this is not in the interest of the government anyway, because there will be less cars sold, this is not in the interest of the government. If they were to take this environmental...
No, this is very much in the interest of the government, because already they have reached a point where they can't do anything more. What can they do about the traffic, the growing traffic, and the cost of petrol involved here, so that ultimately all the petrol which Britain is producing, not all, but most of it will be consumed here within the country. So there's so many interrelated problems, and I personally believe that something of a revolutionary nature has to be applied, attitudes have to be changed, and these things should be given air, which I'm talking about. Please.
Assalamu alaikum. My second question is that if all human beings come from the same family, like Adam,
Yes.
how today we find that human being, we have a lot of, many
Differences.
people, differences.
In color, in
yeah.
style, in creed, everything.
Yes, please.
This is diversity from unity. This is what the Holy Quran has spoken of. He says this is the beauty of God's creation. Every creation begins from one single source, and that it enters a race of diversity. With the passage of time, more diverse it becomes. So your colors change, your styles of life change, your languages change, until new racial boundaries are born. So the Holy Quran does not discourage it. The Holy Quran speaks of diversity in unity, with the condition that you must continue to pay homage not to diversity but to unity. Think of your being one, and then there will be no problems. Then this diversity of color will be so beautiful to look at. Otherwise, if God, the same God, had created this universe in a single color, how would you feel about it? So we are also the creation of the same Creator. Diversity is beautiful, provided that you do not overemphasize the difference, or emphasize the difference at all. You emphasize the unity, and then these things will look so beautiful and wonderful. But when they become instrumental in creating hatred and friction between one type and another, then they turn into ugliness. Right? Please.
What was mean when God said to angels in Quran this word, submit to Adam?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is very clear. The Holy Quran says that when I have made Adam and perfected him, up till then there is no order for submit to him. Then the Holy Quran says, فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ سَوَّيْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي. Savatuhu? I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I know. Savatu pehle keh chuka hu. Perfection means Savatu. فَإِذَا سَوَيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. When I have perfected him and breathed my will into him, then submit. To what? To the will of God. Because if it were to be a submission to Adam alone, then when God had perfected him, then you should have submitted to him. God does not say that. It says, فَإِذَا نَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. Then when I have breathed my will, my law, the book, then you must obey. Because it's my word, not the word of Adam. Right?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please.
We've had all the questions on this side. Oh, I see. I thought there were two ladies.
Two ladies?
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. I've miscounted the number of guests.
So shall we invite some other
well,
ladies?
that will be very
There's
nice.
too little time left now.
Yes. I'll make this a brief question.
Please.
The Commission for Racial Equality has suggested that a sister organisation be set up to deal with cases of religious discrimination, because some people from non-Christian faiths have said that they're being discriminated against by employers because of their religion. It's been Muslims that have made this complaint. Do you think such a body would create more problems than it solved?
I think the problems it may create should be brought into the focus of attention by the Commission, because what is presented to them is only partial, and the totality of the attitude of such minorities is willfully kept away from the notice of such authorities. They must first of all inquire from those who complain. Tell us, what is your religion? What would your religion permit your political society? To what extent they should show lenience to the Christians, to the Hindus, to the Muslims, and to the Ahmadis, if they consider them outside the pale of Islam, of course. So tell us what your religion speaks on these things. If our view of fundamental human rights agrees with your religious views, then of course we'll decide your religious entity as such here. We'll bring the whole question of your religious entity into the problems of this country. But if it is totally disagreeable, then in the name of that religion, which teaches you injustice with relation to others, how can you demand justice from us? You see? So this is what is not brought home to the mullahs who make this appeal only for this, because they think there are more number of Muslims living here than to be left alone in politics as individuals. They believe that this number of the Muslims should be employed politically as a single unit. So they raise the questions of religion, without telling the British society that the question of religion which we are raising would not permit us the rights which you are demanding in this name in a non-Muslim society. It should not permit us. Because in our country we will not, extend the same rights to you. So the wisest thing for the Commission should be to take up this issue in this totality as I have just mentioned. Or tell us what Islam says about the fundamental human rights. We should do that to you. This is the demand.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
Please. You better tell the authorities what I'm talking about. They may not hear this conversation here, this discussion, but it's very important. You better write to them on your own on the issues that this is what you should do. Why are you shutting your eyes to this important thing?
Yes. There was recently a conference in Birmingham about this very subject.
Please.
As we know in Europe, the issue of the elderly is very close to the heart of the people.
The issue of?
Of the elderly people, the old people.
Old people, yes.
Yeah. It's very close to the heart of the people.
It's farthest away from the heart of the people.
But yet, the old people, the greater percentage of them end up in homes. They
This
are
is
not
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Pardon me for reframing your question. You should have said it's farthest away from the hearts of the people, because if they had really cared for their elderly people, they would keep them in their own homes.
Yeah. Okay.
To throw them to the society.
It's very close to their heart superficially.
No. To throw them to the society and yet care for their well-being, so that they do not have to share any responsibility. This is what they need. The society should kick back and tell them, they are your elderly people, you take care. We consider the elderly people fit for homes only those which are left without any family at all. There are many who are left singles, without daughters or parents, etc., to take care of them. So such people who are really abandoned, not willfully, but because of the unavoidable circumstances, such people should be admitted to elderly homes, and the rest should be returned to their own homes. Why do not they take care of their fathers and mothers when they took care of them as small children and also washed their nappies and things? See, they took so much, put themselves to so much trouble, that the trouble which they are causing is just small and insignificant in relation to that. They want a small room, a separate existence where they can be taken care of as much as possible. Where the care requires financial aid of a nature which the family cannot support, then the state should of course help them. Only to that extent. They can help them employ a nurse where a nurse is really needed. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Further question.
And the time is also over. 1 minute. Would you ask a question in 10 seconds so that I could answer it in 50 seconds?
Okay.
Oh, yes.
How will the day of judgment take place?
How many?
How will the day of judgment
That's right.
take place? And how will we be judged?
You are judged here and you know it, by your own conscience. You will be judged exactly in the same way in the hereafter. And the hereafter will take place when we are resurrected, not in the same bodies, but in the same spirits, which undergo a very, let me say, a change which is evolutionary in nature. Like the first cell of life is born, and 1 billion years after that you and I are created, so from the same soul which we deliver during our death, a new not ethereal, but spiritual existence will be created, which will be far more developed than the soul which we deliver. Then it will be put to question as to what she has been doing while on earth. And that question will be will be a type of question to which they know the answers themselves. Because here on earth we create our own souls and shape them and mold them according to our goodness or evil. So they will be pushed on the same line along throughout their evolution. If they have congenital defect, it would grow along with them. And that would be their hell with them. But the time is over. You understand the answer?
Yeah.
I hope,
Yeah.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
So with that I take leave of you. Hope to meet you again whenever you come. You're most welcome to this.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Muzaffar, you are looking much better now and younger.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.